Have you ever stopped to consider that nearly 80% of New Year's resolutions are abandoned by the second week of February? It's a staggering statistic, and one that should give us pause. What is it about our attempts to change our lives, to improve ourselves, that is so inherently flawed? Is it that we're simply not trying hard enough? Or is there something more insidious at play? The truth is, most of us are operating under a fundamental misconception about what drives success. And it's a misconception that's rooted in our understanding of motivation. We've been led to believe that motivation is the key to achieving our goals, that if we just want it badly enough, we'll be able to overcome any obstacle and reach our full potential. But what if that's not true? What if motivation is actually the weakest link in the chain, and it's something else entirely that separates the successful from the unsuccessful? A study conducted by psychologist Angela Duckworth at the University of Pennsylvania found that self-discipline is a far more accurate predictor of success than IQ or talent. In fact, Duckworth's research showed that students who scored high in self-discipline tended to perform better academically, even if they didn't necessarily have the highest IQs. This raises an important question. What is it about discipline that makes it so much more effective than motivation? One possible answer lies in the work of psychologist Roy Baumeister, who has spent years studying the role of willpower in human behavior. According to Baumeister, willpower is a finite resource that can be depleted over time, much like a muscle that becomes fatigued from overuse. This means that when we're relying on motivation to drive our behavior, we're essentially drawing on a limited well of resources that can quickly run dry. On the other hand, discipline is more like a habitual pattern of behavior that can be developed over time, allowing us to perform tasks consistently and efficiently, even when motivation is lacking. So, what exactly is discipline, and how does it differ from motivation? Discipline is about creating a set of habits and routines that support our long-term goals, even when we don't feel like it. It's about showing up to the gym every day, even if we're not in the mood, or sitting down to work on our project, even if we're not feeling inspired. Motivation, on the other hand, is more like a fleeting emotion that can come and go at any moment. It's the spark that gets us started, but it's not what sustains us over the long haul. A study published in the Journal of Applied Psychology found that when people are motivated by intrinsic factors, such as a genuine interest in the task, they tend to perform better and are more likely to stick with it. However, when motivation is extrinsic, such as when we're driven by external rewards or pressure, it can actually have a negative impact on our performance and overall well-being. This is because extrinsic motivation can lead to a phenomenon known as the over-justification effect, where we start to associate the task with the reward rather than the task itself, and as a result, we lose interest in the task once the reward is gone. The work of psychologist Edward Deci at the University of Rochester has also shed some light on the differences between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. According to Deci, when we're motivated by intrinsic factors, we experience a sense of autonomy and self-determination, which is essential for our psychological well-being. On the other hand, when we're motivated by extrinsic factors, we can start to feel controlled and manipulated, which can undermine our sense of autonomy and lead to a decrease in motivation over time. This is why discipline is so important, because it allows us to develop a sense of self-control and agency, even when we're not feeling motivated. By creating a set of habits and routines that support our goals, we can ensure that we're making progress, even when motivation is lacking. And it's this sense of progress, this sense of momentum, that can help to build motivation over time. As we explore the relationship between discipline and motivation, it's clear that discipline is not just about willpower or self-control, but about creating a set of habits and routines that support our long-term goals. It's about developing a sense of self-awareness and self-regulation so that we can anticipate and prepare for the obstacles that inevitably arise. By doing so, we can build a sense of resilience and perseverance, which is essential for achieving success in any area of our lives. And it's this sense of resilience that can help us to overcome the inevitable setbacks and failures that we'll encounter along the way. But what happens when we're faced with a particularly daunting challenge, one that requires us to push ourselves to the limit? Can discipline alone be enough to carry us through, or do we need something more? The answer lies in the way that discipline and motivation interact, and how they can be used in tandem to achieve our goals. You see, when we're disciplined, we're able to create a sense of momentum and progress, which can help to build motivation over time. And when we're motivated, we're able to tap into a sense of purpose and meaning, which can help to sustain us even when the going gets tough. But what happens when we're faced with a challenge that requires us to dig deep, to find a reservoir of strength and resilience that we never knew we had? Do we rely on discipline, or do we rely on motivation? The answer is not a simple one, and it's something that we'll explore in more depth as we continue to examine the complex relationship between discipline and motivation, and how it can be used to achieve our goals and realize our full potential. And as we delve deeper into the psychological mechanisms that underlie human behavior, we begin to see that the interplay between discipline and motivation is far more complex than we initially thought. And it's this complexity that can help us to unlock the secrets of success and achievement. And it's this understanding that can help us to develop the skills and strategies we need to overcome any obstacle and achieve our goals. And as we continue to explore this topic, we'll see that the relationship between discipline and motivation is not a fixed or static one, but rather a dynamic and ever-changing one. And it's this dynamic interplay that can help us to stay motivated and focused, even in the face of adversity. And it's this understanding that can help us to develop a sense of purpose and direction. And it's this sense of purpose that can help us to stay on track, even when the going gets tough. And as we continue to navigate the complex landscape of human behavior, we'll see that the key to success lies not in motivation alone, but in the delicate balance between discipline and motivation. And it's this balance that can help us to unlock our full potential and achieve our goals. And as we explore this balance in more depth, we'll see that it's not just about finding a middle ground, but about creating a sense of harmony and synergy between these two competing forces. And it's this harmony that can help us to achieve greatness. And it's this understanding that can help us to develop a sense of mastery and control. And it's this sense of mastery that can help us to stay focused and motivated, even in the face of adversity. And as we continue to explore the complex relationship between discipline and motivation, we'll see that it's not just about achieving success, but about living a life of purpose and meaning. And it's this understanding that can help us to unlock our full potential and achieve our goals. And as we delve deeper into the psychological mechanisms that underlie human behavior, we begin to see that the interplay between discipline and motivation is far more complex than we initially thought. And it's this complexity that can help us to develop the skills and strategies we need to overcome any obstacle and achieve our goals. And as we continue to navigate the complex landscape of human behavior, we'll see that the key to success lies not in motivation alone, but in the delicate balance between discipline and motivation. And it's this balance that can help us to unlock our full potential and achieve our goals. And as we explore this balance in more depth, we'll see that it's not just about finding a middle ground, but about creating a sense of harmony and synergy between these two competing forces. And it's this harmony that can help us to achieve greatness. And it's this understanding that can help us to develop a sense of mastery and control. And it's this sense of mastery that can help us to stay focused and motivated, even in the face of adversity. And as we continue to explore the complex relationship between discipline and motivation, we'll see that it's not just about achieving success, but about living a life of purpose and meaning. And it's this understanding that can help us to unlock our full potential and achieve our goals. And it's this understanding that can help us to develop a sense of purpose and direction. And it's this sense of purpose that can help us to stay on track, even when the going gets tough. And as we continue to navigate the complex landscape of human behavior, we'll see that the key to success lies not in motivation alone, but in the delicate balance between discipline and motivation. And it's this balance that can help us to unlock our full potential and achieve our goals. And as we explore this balance in more depth, we'll see that it's not just about finding a middle ground, but about creating a sense of harmony and synergy between these two competing forces. And it's this harmony that can help us to achieve greatness. And it's this understanding that can help us to develop a sense of mastery and control in it. So, we've established that motivation is fleeting and discipline is what truly gets the job done. But why is that? Well, it all comes down to the way our brains are wired. You see, when we're motivated, we're often driven by a sense of excitement and novelty, which can be powerful, but also short-lived. On the other hand, discipline is about creating habits and routines that become second nature to us, allowing us to perform at a high level even when we don't feel like it. A study conducted by researcher Angela Duckworth found that people who possess high levels of discipline, or what she calls grit, tend to outperform their more motivated but less disciplined peers in the long run. This is because discipline allows us to push through obstacles and stay focused on our goals, even when the going gets tough. For example, think about a professional athlete who has to train every day, even when they're not feeling their best. They don't rely on motivation to get them through their workouts. Instead, they rely on their discipline and habit of showing up and putting in the work. Another study, led by researcher Roy Baumeister, discovered that our willpower is like a muscle that can be depleted over time. When we exert self-control and discipline, we're using up our mental energy, which can leave us feeling drained and vulnerable to temptation. However, the more we practice discipline, the stronger our willpower becomes, allowing us to overcome even the toughest challenges. To illustrate this, consider a person trying to quit smoking. At first, it's tough, and they have to exert a lot of willpower to resist the urge to light up. But as they continue to practice discipline and avoid smoking, it becomes easier and easier, until eventually, it's just a habitual part of who they are. So, how can we apply this knowledge to our own lives? Well, the first step is to identify the areas where we want to build discipline. Is it in our work, our relationships, or our personal habits? Once we've identified these areas, we can start creating routines and schedules that support our goals. For instance, if we want to start exercising regularly, we can commit to waking up at the same time every day and going for a run. It doesn't matter if we don't feel like it at first. The key is to show up and do the work, even when it's hard. The second step is to track our progress and hold ourselves accountable. This can be as simple as keeping a journal or using a habit tracking app on our phone. By monitoring our progress, we can see how far we've come and identify areas where we need to improve. For example, if we're trying to build a writing habit, we can track how many words we write each day and set goals for ourselves to increase our output over time. The third step is to create an environment that supports our discipline. This means eliminating distractions and temptations that can derail our progress. For instance, if we're trying to build a reading habit, we can remove the TV from our bedroom and replace it with a bookshelf. Or, if we're trying to eat healthier, we can get rid of the junk food in our pantry and stock up on fresh fruits and vegetables. By creating an environment that supports our goals, we can make it easier to stick to our routines and build discipline over time. The fourth step is to be patient and celebrate our small wins. Building discipline takes time, and it's not always easy. There will be days when we feel like giving up, when it seems like our efforts aren't paying off. But the truth is, every small victory counts, and it's the accumulation of these small wins that ultimately leads to big successes. So, instead of getting discouraged when we slip up, we should focus on getting back on track and celebrating the progress we've made so far. In real life, this might look like a student who wants to improve their grades. They start by creating a study schedule and sticking to it, even when they don't feel like it. They track their progress and hold themselves accountable, and they create an environment that supports their goals by getting rid of distractions and finding a quiet place to study. And when they do well on a test or complete a difficult assignment, they celebrate their small win and use it as motivation to keep going. As we build discipline, we'll start to notice changes in our lives. We'll become more confident, more resilient, and more capable of achieving our goals. We'll be able to tackle challenges that once seemed insurmountable, and we'll be able to overcome obstacles that would have previously held us back. And it's not just about achieving success. It's about becoming the kind of person who can achieve success. It's about developing the character and the habits that will serve us well for the rest of our lives. In conclusion, discipline is what sets the high achievers apart from the rest. It's what allows us to build habits, overcome obstacles, and achieve our goals. And the best part is, discipline is something that can be developed over time with practice and patience. By applying the principles we've discussed today, we can start building the discipline we need to succeed. If this helped you see yourself differently, subscribe. I post new psychology insights every single day. And if you want to go even deeper, check the link in the description for Deep Work by Cal Newport. It changed how millions of people think and act.